to another Facebook Live. We have one of my favorite returning guests with us today, Dale Vermillion. Dale has over 36 years experience within the mortgage space. He is the creator of Mortgage Champions, the author of Navigating the Mortgage Maze, and the founder of Mortgage Professionals Providing Hope. So welcome to this Facebook Live, Barry, Dale, and everyone listening right now. The main topic of today's event is all about the 2021 market and how you can prepare yourself. And, if you are tuning in and listening to this, let us know. Go ahead, post in the comments, give this a thumbs up. And without further ado, welcome you two.
Hey, Megan. Hey, Barry. It's so good to be with my 2021 just got great because I'm with two of my favorite people on the planet. So this is awesome. Thanks for having me on.
We love having you on, Dale. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody. It's good to have our first Facebook Live of the year. And who better to kick it off than with you, Dale, so that we can get some ideas and thoughts and planning for the year ahead. Because, Dale, what I would love to hear your thoughts on, you and I, between us, we've got a little bit of experience between us. I think we joked about this before. It's about 70 years experience in this industry and lots of originations and lots of markets that we've seen. We know that right now there's a big tailwind, but sometimes when you get a big tailwind like this, it's easy to take your eye off the ball. And I just was wanting to get some thoughts for you as far as what our mindset should be into 2021. What are the things that you feel we should be looking at as originators who are doing well with refinances, but there's a hot housing market out there. And how do we make sure we maintain our business, not just for the first quarter, not just for 2021, but really into the future?
Well, Barry, you talk about this all the time. And I think the first key is you've got to go into this year and you've got to have plans just beyond this year. You can't ever treat your business like it's a month-to-month or even day-to-day operation. It's a year-to-year operation. You got to be thinking in the long term. And we know that everything out there tells us 2021 is going to look very much like 2020. It's going to be very low rates. It's going to be very high volume, lots of refinance opportunities again, tons of purchase business. They're projecting through the MBA the highest purchase market in all of U.S. history this year. That very well could happen. When you look at those things, you want to capitalize on that market. So there's two things that I would say that would be the cornerstones of jumping into this year. Number one is to plan with purpose. And I know, Megan, you've got some questions we want to talk about around that and how to build a purpose and have a purpose that you're working on. But you got to plan with purpose. You got to go in and say, what is it you're really trying to accomplish this year? Is it really just making money? I doubt it. It's probably for much bigger reasons that you got to identify that before you even start the plan. And then number two is fail forward. And I always love that term because I think it's so important. We learned so much, Barry, in 2020 that we should be able to carry into 2021 and make us absolute stallions in this marketplace. But we got to learn from our mistakes. We got to learn to make sure that we are projecting for a high volume market. We're setting our businesses up properly. We're organizing our schedules, our days, and our plans around success with high volume. And we're building the team around us to capitalize on both refi and purchase. Because look, if you're just going to be a refi junkie in 2021, you're going to miss a whole lot of opportunities in 2022, 23, 24, and 25. If you go in and you balance your portfolio and say, you know what, I'm going to take both of those. I'm going to make sure I take care of my realtors. I'm going to make sure that I start the year right by touching base with them. And I know we'll talk about that more and really setting them up for success. It's going to be an incredible 2021 that launches 2022 through 25. And that's the way we want to look at it.
I love that you bring up having a purpose. And I think that this is a huge thing because when I look at people, going out there trying to achieve their goals this time of year, a lot of people after about a month, they kind of fall off the wagon and they forget about these goals. And I think a big part of that is you mentioned purpose, which is huge, but also part of that purpose, I think, is clarity. You have to have clarity when it comes to these goals, or it's really easy to not achieve them. So when it comes to purpose and it comes to clarity, how do you help people gain more clarity?
Well, I think the first thing is, there's a saying I use all the time that goes like this: purpose drives passion, passion drives performance, and performance drives production. Those four P's all connect together. So you got to start at that first level of purpose. Why do I do what I do every day? What is your ultimate goal, both personally and professionally? Personally, what am I trying to accomplish in my life? I want to lay those goals out. You know, we have these New Year's resolutions we set every year and we fall away from them pretty quickly a lot of times. We want to establish things that get us excited about the year and set those purposes in place. And then once we do that, then we look at the professional side. What is the why behind the why? In other words, am I doing it to make money, or am I really doing it to help consumers get in homes, to help consumers afford the homes they have better through refinances that make sense, what I call right refis? And am I doing it to really help impact my community and our country at large? If you're doing it for those reasons, Megan, you're not going to lose motivation at any time during the course of the year. And then what you have to do is, once you establish that purpose, that'll start to tell you how much production you've got to bring in. I know how much money I got to make this year to hit my goals. Having said that, let's back into that. Let's first analyze our conversion rates. Any loan officer that doesn't know their conversion rate from lead to application to converted sale, and sale to funded loan, if you don't know those three conversion rates, you can't build a plan that's worth anything in the marketplace. You've got to know historically where you're at in those three categories. You do that by looking back at your past performance and how you've done in the past. And then from that, you project forward and say, okay, if I want to increase my income by 30%, I got to increase my applications or my referrals by 30%. Now, how am I going to do that? How many more partners do I need? How many more leads do I need per day? How much more sales time do I need to spend to get that done? There is a mathematics that goes with this that will help you get to those goals.
And what about the people, because I have fallen into this trap before, what about the people that have a laundry list of New Year's resolutions?
Yeah.
How do we because once you have a laundry list of things to do, it's like your to-do list every day. If you have too many things on that to-do list, you're day in and day out never going to finish all those tasks. And that's going to, kind of get you down, get your confidence down. It's going to start making you doubt yourself. Can I achieve this? So what do you say to all the people right now that have a laundry list of New Year's resolutions?
Well, if you can't define it, you're not going to achieve it, is number one. So you've got to be able to define it down to the point where what are the actions necessary to accomplish that goal? If you can't complete those actions in the course of a normal day, you've set yourself up for failure before you ever got started. And let me say this, look, Barry mentioned it. We got a bunch of years between the two of us. I mean, Barry's a lot younger than I am. I'm going to be 60 this year. So this is kind of a weird year for me because I'm hitting a new milestone. But, there's one thing I've learned in 60 years of life. Here's what I've learned. You have to live with a priority mindset in everything you do, So when I set my goals, I don't care if you've got 30 goals you want to accomplish. That's great. Good for you. But you're not going to accomplish all 30. What you have to do is take that 30 and you got to break it down to what's the number 1 through number 30 in priority order based on your purpose. And when you establish that, start with number 1. Just focus on number 1. Get that one accomplished. Get some wins in your sales, so that what happens is you start to build your confidence, you build your momentum, and now you can start picking off at number 2 and number 3 and number 4 and define them down to the activities and actions necessary. And here's the key. And man, if there's one thing I want everybody to grab from what I'm going to say today, it's this: break it down daily and hourly. The biggest mistake in the mortgage business has always been we set monthly goals. You never want to manage your business to a monthly goal. You want to break it down to, what do I need to do each day? What do I need to do each hour to achieve that goal? So if I want to generate 3 applications a day, that's going to get me 2 sales a day, that's going to get me literally 35 to 40 loans a month closed, how many referrals do I need and partners do I need to accomplish that? That's the activities you're working on.
Very interesting, and a lot of gold nuggets there. I'm taking notes here, so I hope each and every one of you is as well. We talked a little bit about the 2021 markets, and a lot of people have forecasted that rates are going to remain low. Not to bring politics into this, but it could change the housing market going forward. Barry and Dale, I'm curious from both of your perspectives. We know that the Georgia Senate election is taking place right now, and we may get results from that tonight, or, it may take a couple days knowing how this is going. But depending on that turnout, what could change within the housing industry that loan originators, brokers should be prepared for?
So Barry, I'm going to let you start with this one because I know this is right in your wheelhouse. You are the man with a plan when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, we both know that, depending on what happens, anytime there's a political change, particularly an across the board political change, there is going to be a shift in the marketplace. There's no question about it. So Barry, I'll let you start with that, and I'll kind of throw in on top of that with some ideas that I've got.
Well, so there's so many things that can happen here depending on this outcome. If it's a blue sweep and you do get the control of the House, the White House, the House, and the Senate by the Democrats, there is a clear path to change some tax policy that can have an impact on the stock market and could have certainly an impact on the way we invest and the housing market as well. So it's a bit unclear right now, what's going to happen. We may not know by the end of the day. We may not know by the end of tomorrow. Who knows when we'll get the outcome. But it does appear that if there is a blue wave, that there is going to be some change to the way capital gains could be treated. And that could change inventory levels because people might say, hey, why should I sell my home if the cost of doing so is much greater? The stock market might see a rush to try and take advantage of being positioned ahead of a potential capital gains increase. And there could be a lot of disruptions in the marketplace. So it's a little too early to see, obviously. Let's take it a step at a time. But I feel there could be some implications. And then there's also the effect on interest rates. I think that a blue wave could cause interest rates to move a little bit higher because some of the spending programs could be deemed to be inflationary. So there's a lot at stake here. So let's just take this a step at a time.
Well, and couldn't agree more with all of those statements. And Barry, again, you're the expert on this. There's nobody that, if I'm going to turn for an answer, I'm coming to you for these kind of things. But let me say, from my perspective, from all the things that I see out there, you've also got the coronavirus still to deal with. That worldwide pandemic hasn't solved its final outcome yet. That could have some impact. Here's what I would say to everybody watching today. That is not going to affect your business unless you let it. If rates go up 0.5% tomorrow, I can tell you all right now, you can still be wildly successful in 2021. Rates don't control your success. You control your success as to how you approach your business. Because remember, no matter what rates do, people are going to want to own homes. I've said it many times. You're never going to interview a fourth grader who says, when I grow up, I want to be a renter. Okay, that's not going to happen. They want to have the stability of home ownership. So we know that the American dream is home ownership. We know that mortgage has been the bright spot of the economy in 2020, and it will be in 2021, because it's the single biggest way for people to reduce their expenses, to increase their income and have more spendable income each month by refinancing and doing it the right way. The bottom line is, if we can focus on, no matter what rates do, modifying to the rate market and then helping people get into homes the right way, do it affordably, do it so that they're getting in a good position that they can have a future growth in that property value, those things are going to always be in place, and there will always be a marketplace no matter what the market does. So I would advise you not to sit around as a loan officer and be like, okay, if the market changes, I'm out of business. Heck no. If the market changes, you adjust with the market and you sell to the market, and you help your customers get into the home that makes sense for them based on their budget.
I love that you bring that up. And, we're talking about what could be happening in 2021. And Barry, I'm curious, what opportunities do you see presenting themselves in 2021?
So I really see 2021, if it's handled right, to be one of the greatest opportunities that we've ever seen in the mortgage industry. It's either going to be something people are going to look back on and say, oh my gosh, did I miss out on so much? Or wow, I really accomplished so much. So this is a very important question to ask yourself right now. There's never before in the history of our industry been a situation where rates have been this low, but not just that, with the real estate market this hot. And wait a minute, there's another one where equity levels in homes have been this hot. You've got the trifecta. You hit the jackpot. Yep. If you were to say, I wish for a perfect scenario in our industry, you have it. It's in your hands. But then there's even one more. And the one that people aren't thinking about is you've got 2020 in the books. with lots of money being earned by so many people. So this gives you the ability to now have the wherewithal to grow your business. Maybe you're presented with an opportunity, but if you don't have the ability to invest to capitalize on it, it's one thing.
Right.
But you have all four aspects of that right now. And as you begin 2021, what you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to build? Are you going to fall into the trap of saying, you know what, I'm busy. I'm too busy to work on my business because I'm swamped in my business. Well, remember this, if you're busy because you now have the means and the resources to make investments. So what's the first investment that you want to make in 2021? It's here. It's in your mind. Are you growing yourself mentally?
Yep.
While we might see this business grow as far as capacity goes in 2021 and have a very big year, the pie will have more hands in it because of all these fintech companies that now have a war chest that are going to be able to compete and have interest rates that they can afford to be in a price war with because they now have public money. Have you not paid attention to all the IPOs, to all the SPACs that are out there, to all the public money that's out there for these companies to engage in price wars to get market share? And they're going to try and squeeze you out. So are you investing in your mind? Because Dale talked about it. What is your conversion ratio from conversation to application? The best way to increase that critical, I always called it your batting average, that critical number, your batting average, conversation to application, is by the words you choose. The conversation that you typically have initially is going to be on the phone. How effective are you on the phone? And being a certified mortgage advisor clearly is one of those things. But educate yourself on the marketplace. Have the tools necessary. That's the other thing. Do you have tools that will enable you to have an advantage over your customer, over your competitor? Forgive me. Are you getting advice and coaching from people like Dale, who will now sharpen your skills? Are you doing all those things? Look, in 1955, McDonald's was a great burger shop. It was a great burger shop, and they were so busy. Imagine if the owners said, we're too busy to grow, to work on our business because we're too busy doing what we're doing every day. Now, because they elected to make the smart decision, they became an empire. And what you have to decide is, what do you want to build? Do you want just a great burger shop? Or do you want a business that can build an empire, that can create generational wealth? Because you have this in your hands right now. Don't let it slip. Invest in your mind, invest in your ability, invest in tools, and then build out your team. Now you have the money to get junior loan officers, to get assistants. If you're too busy, it's because you haven't built out your team enough.
Yep.
It's that simple. What do you want to build?
Can I bring up something as well? Is, this year we've seen people bring in enormous amounts of volume, record-breaking volume that maybe they've never done before. And alongside that, I've also heard a lot of people talk about how stressful this time has been. You guys know my mom's an originator, and it's been nonstop. This is so stressful. If this keeps continuing, I don't know what I'm going to do. People are stressed because they're busy. And we've been talking about the housing market outlook and how it's going to remain, predicting that rates are going to remain low and demand is going to continue to stay strong. What do you say to people that are really stressed right now going into the new year? We talk about continuing to build your business, setting these things in place, but how can they manage their stress, and how at this time can they balance that work-life balance? Or is there no work-life balance right now? Is it, hey, this is what the market's giving you, work, 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 attack, then when it slows down, then you can take a break? But how do you guys attack stress management and work-life balance?
Well, look, what a great question that is. And it's forefront to everybody's mind. And I would say this first and foremost, that if you're going to relieve stress, if you're going to live the life that you long to live right now, there's two things you got to do. You got to quit looking backwards and quit looking forwards and just focus on where you're at. That's what you got to do. Look, The only time that you ever look backwards in this business or in life in general is to look back at your successes so you can repeat those successes or learn from your failures. It's the only time you look backward, but you don't look back to the negative things that can concern you, because looking backwards can create real frustration for you. Looking forward, if you look too far forward, what happens is, especially in today's world where things are kind of crazy, it can create fear. You can get to the point where you start to worry about what the future is going to hold when you start combining political changes with coronavirus pandemic, with health issues, with social issues, all these things that are out there. What I have learned in this world we live in today is you wake up today and the first thing you say is, I'm breathing and I'm living, and I've got an opportunity to change every person's life I talk to today. And you know what? I've got people who love me and people that I love that matter to me. And that's enough for right now. I don't need to project too far forward. Now, I'm not saying you don't plan. Of course you do. We talked about that at the beginning of this podcast, that you always project forward as to what you're going to do, but you don't live in the future. You live in the moment. You live in the today. Having a thankful, grateful mindset is so powerful in relieving stress, because you start to realize that no matter what's happening around you, you're okay. You're doing great. I loved what Barry just shared about what kind of business are you going to build. Think about the opportunities you have around you and focus on those. And let me say one important thing to that question, Megan. And the question was, do I balance or do I just slay the market and do it later? I would never recommend the latter of those two. And I'll tell you why. I've seen too many casualties in my career who've done that, who said, I'm just going to work 100 hours a week. I'm going to do it out. And you don't know when this market's going to change. Nobody knew that 2020 would have such a long run of low rates. And now we're still in 2021, it's still going. And I'm seeing people burning out all over the place. You have to always maintain a level of balance, because look, maybe you can handle those long hours, but the question is, can your family, can your children, can your loved ones? They may not abide and go along with that idea. And as I've said a million times, if I said it once, nobody's goal in life is to work so hard, so long, and make so much money your current spouse can spend it with their future spouse. That's never the goal. The goal is always to be successful in business and successful in life at the same time. You do that through great planning. You do that through building your business, like Barry talked about. You do that by making sure that every conversation you have is a good conversation. I loved it, Barry, when you talked about the conversation to conversion piece, where it's all about what are the words you're using, what are the questions you're asking. When I was a manager, if a loan officer got off a call and they said, I just got that application, I just sold a deal, the first question I asked is, tell me about that borrower. What do you know about their retirement, about their college planning for their kids, about their future home purchases? What do you know about that? And if I got that blank stare, I said, you get back on that darn phone right now, because you don't know your customers yet. You can't solve that problem for the next 20 to 30 years on a mortgage if you don't know what they're going to do for the next 20 to 30 years. That's a quality conversation that will lead to giving you more satisfaction in your work, so that as you start to think about balance, balance is planning out your life both personally and professionally, and living within that realm and capitalizing on the business while you're working the best you possibly can.
Yeah, Megan, you talk about the opportunity that we have and the way to balance it out. If you're, as I said earlier, if you're busy, you have the resources to build out your team so you can alleviate some of the stress. Look, it's a stressful job. It's a stressful business. And the more you care, the more you're going to self-induce stress. So let's be real about it. We picked, this is the business that we chose, taking a line from Godfather 2, right? So this business is great, and it's got a lot of good things, but stress is something that we all experience. Everybody experiences it at different levels. We're certainly going to have our share of stress. So try to alleviate the points of friction. Invest. Look, you make money. Well, there's three aspects of this work that we do, right? One is prospecting, one is selling, and one is following up. It's kind of simple when you think about it. There's three elements. So if you take the prospecting, as you listen to people like Megan, and you do things that are going to be efficient using social media, and you also hire people that can help you do things like that, then that's great. The follow-up is critical. So why not have members on your team help with that? And you pick and choose your slots. Because of the three aspects of this business, which is prospecting, selling, and following up, The only place you actually make the cash register ring is on the selling portion. And if you keep yourself in that selling mode, you're going to be most effective, making the most money, having an easier time with your teammates. But in order for you to be highly effective in selling, that's when you have to invest in yourself, invest in your knowledge. Spend your time growing your brain, growing your knowledge, growing your intelligence so that you can be more effective and sharpen your skills. And then pick and choose, don't shun away from it, but pick and choose the aspects where you're going to prospect, the aspects where you're going to follow up, but do those highly effectively by leveraging your time, by using that. You're going to be busy. Yes, you're going to have some stress. Nothing's going to make your stress go away, but you'll be less stressed and you'll be making more money and you'll be happier. And if you listen to what Dale said earlier, and if you listen to what Megan always says, and we always say at MBS Highway in general, is that you need to have goals that are financial goals. You need to have achievement goals, but those alone aren't necessarily the keys to happiness. Dale said it a little differently. I'll say it a little differently, but we say the same thing. And that I think in order for you to be happy, you need those things, but you also need fulfillment. Fulfillment, Dale used the word satisfaction because you're helping that customer. Those are the things that you have to do. You should always have one hand forward to reach for your goals, but one hand back in helping others to pull them along the way. And if you're doing that with each and every customer referral source, while you might be stressed, of course, nothing's going to alleviate that. You'll be able to endure that to a greater degree because of the satisfaction and the happiness that you will feel from doing good out there.
Good.
And we do have a question coming in from Jason. He said, he's working to add a second assistant and he'd love to hear ideas, suggestions on team structure, file flow within the team, etc. If you have any outlook on that.
Absolutely. So let's start with the one basic thing that everybody needs to understand in a retail sales model, and that is you've got two kinds of pieces of the selling process. And Barry talked about it a moment ago, prospecting and selling. I call it hunting and farming. That's a very common term that you hear. Hunting is where we're out there prospecting to get realtors, to get referral partners, to get builders, all of the different referral sources we work with to generate the leads. Farming is once you get those leads, you're actually working with that consumer to close that deal. The first thing you have to understand when you build a team is where's your strength in those two? Some people are great hunters, some are great farmers. You got to understand which one you're better at. If you're more adept to working with realtors, to being out in the marketplace, to driving in those leads, then you need to pick a team of loan partners that are very relational and very good at the application consumer side of that transaction. And they can really help to facilitate the same kind of high level of customer service, integrity, and relationship that you model to your realtors to your consumers. Because look, what you never want is to have a disengagement from where the lead comes from when the realtor gives it to you to what the customer experience is when they go through the process. So I see this a lot, where loan officers will have loan partners that they'll hire. They'll get the leads driven in. They'll let the loan partner handle that lead from start to finish, and they never make a connection with that consumer personally. That's a mistake. You want to make sure that when you build your loan partners, even if it's just 5 minutes, you've got to talk to every single consumer that is referred into your team, because here's the deal. That realtor or that builder or that accountant or that financial planner who referred them, they were expecting you. They weren't expecting somebody else. You've got to make sure that you are first connecting with that consumer, then handing it off. And here's the key: hire people like yourself. Hire people that have your dynamic, your personality, your work ethic, your dynamic personality that really creates that same kind of image. And then from a file flow standpoint, here's what I believe. Top producers are delegators, low producers are doers. Top producers understand that they've got to delegate the responsibility of the majority of the process to their partners. They handle the selling piece, they let them handle the processing piece. They don't get all entwined in the process and also try to sell. That's where you have low performance, and that's where you have your biggest issue. So hire people like yourself, make sure you build it out so you understand if you need hunters or farmers to support your team. When you build them out, make sure you're working together and you're always having connection with that customer, even if for a little bit, to have that sustainability, and so that you're delivering a high customer experience to your realtors. You do that, you're gonna have a really cracked team. Barry, anything?
And the other aspect of it is, by the way, Dale, I like the lighting that changed there. You know, Megan, myself, and you were all very spiritual. Who knows? There's this wonderful heavenly light that's coming in here. So, you know, Megan, this is really important, and you know that this has always been the philosophy that we've had. You know, I've had it throughout any business that I've been blessed to have, and you know this firsthand from MBS Highway, is that we have a teaching environment. There's no such thing as, okay, just do this. You have to teach somebody why. So when it comes to handling the task of now hiring an assistant, I don't just want to hire somebody and just make them do something. You really need to make sure you're teaching them. First of all, it'll be more rewarding for them. More people feel like they're learning, the more they'll want to continue to work with you. So less turnover there. But also, you have to get over the obstacle of control. You have to understand that they're not going to do everything perfectly initially. And you also have to understand that there's a huge difference between time spent and time invested. People, I see this over and over again, they don't take the time to teach individuals. And, you know, Megan, you know that that's our philosophy here at MBS Highway. It's like everything is taught. Even our tech team, they get taught what happens, why. When we give them something that we want them to do in a project that we explain to them, it's not just do the tech thing, it's how does this affect the homeowner? How does this affect the borrower? How does this affect the originator? What is everybody trying to accomplish, so that when they create the technical side of the tool that we've envisioned, it goes into the hands of our client, our subscriber, in a way that is much easier and much more effective. Well, you have to teach that assistant, when you hire that assistant, all those things. What I would do with my assistant is we conference call. I still do that a lot. And they would actually hear how I would talk to the customer, so they were part of that. That was a real magic trick as far as helping that assistant get up to speed. I suggest that's one of the things that you do.
You know, if I can add one thing to that, because that's such a great point. And what the challenge a lot of people have today is, in this world we live in, is we might be disconnected from our employees because of COVID. So we might have them working from home, we're working from home. And what I'm recommending to a lot of my clients, and I'm getting unbelievable feedback from them that this is so powerful, is you literally turn on, you create a Zoom environment, and you create a working office environment through a Zoom format. So in other words, what you're doing is you're turning on your computer, your employees are turning on their computers, you're working side by side, just like you were in the office. It's no different. You now can see what they're doing. They can learn from you. They're hearing you on the phone. What Barry just said is the single most important element of leadership, and that is training people effectively. The best managers are the best trainers. How do they do that? They model the behaviors they want their people to create. Remember, the number one rule to being a great manager is replication. You're trying to replicate yourself. If you're a top producer, you're trying to create top producers. How do you do that? Get them to say what you say, get them to do what you do. And the way that you do that is through modeling that behavior by leading by example. And you do that only by having them listen to you on calls. You listen to them, you coach them, you work with them, you train them. If you do those things, to Barry's point, you're going to build a killer team. You're going to have 5 or 10 or 15 of you working for you. And when you got that, let me tell you what, you're in a good position.
You guys have been giving, such great insight throughout this entire segment here today. And I kind of wanted to end this with a little bit more of a personal question, because in a lot of our eyes, you guys are, the cream of the crop when it comes to individuals in the mortgage space. We all look up to you. And a lot of the times it can feel like these guys have never failed. And Dale, you had mentioned about failing forward. So I just wanted to ask each of you personally, when was a time that you failed forward?
Good question. Barry, you want to take this one first? You want me to go?
Go ahead, Dale. You could start us off.
I think back to when I was working my way up through the ranks back in the 1980s, early 1990s. And I was in line for a position to get promoted, I thought, to a district manager job when I was a branch manager. I'd run the #1 branch in the country at that point. There was almost 1,000 branches in that company. So to me, I was obviously the guy that should get the next job. And another guy got it. And I just remember the heavy feeling that I had about, oh my gosh, how could that happen? I'm a loser. I should have got that job. And I realized very quickly that I wasn't ready for that next level. The reason I didn't get promoted wasn't because I wasn't able to perform. It's because I didn't have the maturity enough yet in my career to be at that next level, to go from managing 22 people to managing 350 people. I learned a valuable thing about life, and that is you've got to be patient in life. You've got to understand that you're not going to win every time. You're going to lose things. I mean, I could tell you 1,000 stories of failures in my life. But when I think back to that one, I remember that being a real turning point in my career, because it made me realize that we get ahead of ourselves sometimes. And we want to be at a level that we're not ready to be at yet. We've got to understand that everything in life is a learning process. You're learning each day as you go. And you know what? Just put your head down, do your job to the very best extent you can, be as high integrity as you possibly can, help every person in your way. And I promise you, God is going to bless you in amazing ways, and you're going to have an incredible career. And you know what? Those failures, you'll learn from them. You'll learn the things you need to learn to grow the way you need to grow.
And sometimes you won't notice them until after the fact, but I promise you guys, you'll learn from them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah. So fail all the time, fail forward all the time. It's it's little things too, just almost on a daily basis when you try and learn from the things that go wrong. We all have obstacles. We all have just little things that are points of friction or points of resistance. And the decision that you have to make at that point in time is, do you take that point of resistance and say, okay, I can't get through this, or I'm not going to be able to accomplish it, and it's a failure? Or do you try your best to work through it, to try an alternative route, to try and do things? If you think about, there's so many analogies just within even the human body. When you cut yourself, the blood flow finds ways around that cut. Okay, so you have to kind of figure out ways when something happens that stops your progress. How do I get around it? What is it that we do? And you have to sometimes spend some time thinking, and we don't do that. How many of you take actual time out to dedicate, almost like it's an appointment, to think about things? And just to answer that honestly, I would venture to say very few people do that, to spend a period of time just to think about either how can I solve problems, or what is it that I can do? How do I look at my business and look at it as if I were a competitor wanting to take that business away? Because if you plug the holes that you have in your business before your competition thinks of them, well, then you really build a business that's going to be very strong and that can continue to grow. So this is the mindset that you have to have. And that's what it all comes down to, Megan. So to answer your question, it's mindset. It's, am I building a business where I'm proactively thinking about how to be defensive and protected by taking the approach of how my competitors would attack me? Am I looking at the problems that are coming up? And am I at that point figuring out solutions and ways around them and taking the time to do so? And then, are there just ways that maybe I thought this process was correct, but now I have to pivot because it truly isn't? But don't do that without trying to really figure out how to eliminate points of friction. Confidence is very fleeting. I've been blessed with a lot of things that I had done that are, that were good, successful things. Mortgage Market Guide was a very successful business that I created. The whole concept was something new that I initiated. And then after selling that and sitting out a non-compete, and when it was time to come back with MBS Highway, we had good growth, but then we stalled. And, I questioned myself. And, Dale, I know you mentioned something like this. I questioned myself, am I doing something wrong? What's going on here? And then we just had to make different decisions and different pivots. It wasn't just quitting and saying, okay, well, that's it. It was, how can we continuously make this better and more valuable, and taking the time to do that, and just never quitting and never giving up.
And I love that. And if I can add one thing to that, and this is so important, when I train leaders across the country, the most common question I get is, what are the key components of a great employee? When you look for employees, what do you look for? And I go, you know what? Let me tell you the number one thing you look for: teachable spirit. If you have somebody that doesn't have a teachable spirit, do not hire them. I don't care what their resume tells you, because they're at the end of their career. They're going nowhere but down. We all have to be people that are willing to learn and to move forward and to understand that we're not the smartest person in the room every time we're in the room. I've said to them, I coach CEOs around the country, and sometimes I say to them, I say, when you're in a meeting, do you always find yourself thinking you're the smartest person in the room? They go, well, yeah. I go, well, that's your problem right there. You got to break that, because you're not the smartest person in the room every time. You are sometimes, but you're certainly not all the time. We've got to have a spirit where we're willing to learn, willing to adjust, willing to fail. We're okay with that. You know, I'm an old Chicago boy, so I love Michael Jordan, and they tell the story all the time about Michael Jordan always says, I missed tens of thousands of shots to be able to make the ones that matter. That's what the kind of mindset we have to have in this business.
Yeah,
Mindset is so key. And two things that I want to bring up as well. One thing that has really helped me in achieving my goals is writing them down.
Yes.
You know, if it's all in your head, you're probably not going to achieve it. So write it down. Do it right now in the comments. Tell us what one of your 2021 goals is for this year. And another huge component that has helped me be successful on my goals is accountability. And Dale, you do just that with your coaching. So for anyone that is looking for a little bit more accountability, where can they find out more about you and reach you?
Just go to dalevermillion.com or mortgagechampions.com. You'll find out lots about me. Remember, King Solomon in Proverbs 27:17 said, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So Megan, you're right. He was the wisest man that ever lived. And he saw the importance of accountability. It's critical. And I would say one more thing about those goals. Give them to the person you love the most. Sign them and hand them to them. Don't just write them down, but commit them to somebody that matters to you, because now you're on the hook. When you're on the hook, it makes a difference in how you view your goals.
Yeah, and Dale and I, we often get on the phone with each other, and we make sure we check in on each other and keep each other accountable to make sure we're doing good things out there. So, so I'm lucky to have Dale as an accountability partner for me too. And you guys should find that as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right.
I'll tell you, I look forward to those calls that Barry and I have. You know, every time I get off the phone with that smiling guy right there, I'm not the same guy when I get done. I'm good for about 3 or 4 days, man. So it's awesome.
I love that. You guys have that rub off on me too. It's good energy. And we hope we rubbed off on all of you as well. And we hope that you guys have a great 2021. We will post the link to find out more about Dale in the comments. And thank each and every one of you. And thank you, Dale. And thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, guys. Love you both. Appreciate you.
Love you.